Great for burgers, chili, tacos, and so much more. Ground beef is truly a versatile star. But to ensure your next dish is both tasty and safe, there are a few important guidelines to follow. Ground beef usually comes packaged in 1 pound or larger portions, which can leave home cooks in a tricky spot. What if you only need half a pound but have a full frozen pound on hand? One option is to thaw the entire package, use what you need, then refreeze the leftovers. According to the USDA, this is safe as long as the meat stays refrigerated and hasn't been thawed for more than 2 days. However, thawing more meat than necessary can be time-consuming, and repeatedly thawing and refreezing can dry out the beef and ruin its texture. The smartest strategy is to plan ahead. Before freezing, split your ground beef into smaller, manageable portions. You can use a kitchen scale to measure and wrap equal amounts, or prep a whole batch by flattening it in a freezer bag and scoring it into sections with a chopstick or similar blunt tool. Once divided, freeze the meat like that, so when you're ready to cook, you can easily break off just the amount you need. To keep your beef safe and avoid harmful bacteria, it's important to know how long you can store it before it spoils. Ground beef should be eaten within 2 days when kept in the fridge, which needs to stay cold enough, around 33 degrees Fahrenheit, to keep the meat fresh. If your refrigerator isn't that cold or you're unsure when you'll use the beef, freezing it is a safer bet for longer storage. That said, even the freezer has its limits. While ground beef can technically be frozen forever and still be safe to eat, there's a difference between safety and quality. Over time, the flavor and texture will naturally decline. Other factors like inconsistent freezer temperatures, damage during processing or shipping, or exposure to air can also affect your beef. Though ground beef might last indefinitely if perfectly sealed and kept in a professional lab freezer, your home freezer can't guarantee that. Because of this, the USDA advises using frozen ground beef within 4 months for the best taste and texture. Making sure it's tightly wrapped before freezing and clearly labeling it with the date will help maintain quality and remind you to use it before it declines. You likely already know that beef is typically kept either in the fridge or freezer. There's actually a third, just as effective way to preserve ground beef for the long haul: canning. To do this, you'll need to fully cook the beef and drain off any fat. Then, pack it into a sterilized canning jar. Cover with water or defatted broth, and seal it up. You can season the meat beforehand, but be cautious with certain spices like thyme, which can intensify during canning and become overpowering. One important detail: because ground beef is low in acid, it must be processed in a pressure canner. Using a water bath canner won't heat the meat enough to safely preserve it. Home cooks often rely on frozen ground beef because it's so convenient. Technically, if kept properly frozen, it can last forever. However, freezing food for long stretches can affect its taste and quality. Freezer burn happens when moisture escapes from the food and freezes on the surface, causing the meat to dry out and develop brown patches, which hurts both flavor and texture. Additionally, your ground beef can soak up unwanted odors from the freezer or nearby items, leading to a strange or off-putting taste. A simple way to reduce these risks is to wrap your ground beef carefully before freezing. You've got plenty of effective options right at home. Aluminum foil, plastic wrap, freezer bags, or freezer paper all work well. To keep things organized, don't forget to label each package with the date it was wrapped and frozen, along with the amount of ground beef inside. It can be tempting to just throw the beef straight into the fridge or freezer as soon as you get home. Freezing ground beef in its original packaging is convenient and works fine, but when it's time to cook, waiting for a dense block to thaw can be frustrating. To stay safe, you'll want to thaw it slowly, either in the fridge or under cold water, not just left out on the counter. Basically, cooking safely with ground beef takes some advanced planning, and we all know how well that usually goes. To speed up thawing, try prepping your meat before freezing. Take it out of the original wrap, place it in a large freezer bag, and flatten it to about 1/2 inch thick. Seal the bag tightly, pushing out as much air as possible. This helps prevent freezer burn by reducing air pockets and allows the meat to thaw more quickly when you're ready to cook. If you're someone who cooks a lot at home or has a busy family, your fridge is probably opened and closed countless times each day. With different foods being taken out, added, shuffled around, and sometimes spilled, the temperature inside will naturally vary. Usually, the coldest spots are near the back and bottom of the fridge, unless you have a model with a top-mounted ice maker, where the top tends to be cooler instead. This info is important because highly perishable items like ground beef need to be stored at the coldest possible temperatures. Since raw ground beef can harbor harmful bacteria, it's also crucial to prevent any leakage from contaminating other foods in your fridge. To avoid this, it's best to keep ground beef on a bottom shelf or in a designated drawer where it stays cold and won't drip onto anything else.